here we are, and we have a special topic today. It comes up, I think, in each of the workshops. I give the same question, more or less come there. And so we will go to it. The topic is, have you said it already? No. So we thought it is nice maybe to go one time to that auditioning.
Yes.
The wonderful stress of auditioning, and we can absolutely understand each other, that one gets nervous, that one is a little bit asking questions and so on. And I have to tell to the people here, I have, I hope it's allowed, Lisa, it's when we had in the 1992, our first Michael Chekhov International Conference in Berlin, we invited a lot of Chekhov teachers. One of them was also Lisa Dalton. And what did she give a workshop for? You may imagine. A wonderful created auditioning process, leading the people through the auditioning process with Michael Chekhov technique. And then I had last year the chance to invite Lisa to Berlin for the European people. And I was really asking her, please also give one workshop, she gave two, with this topic of the auditioning. And I have to say, I liked it very much. And so I think Lisa has really something to offer to us. And then we will see what maybe I can give to it.
Thank you very much, Joerg. Yes, Joerg Andres from Michael Chekhov Academy International and Lisa Dalton, National Michael Chekhov Association. And this is our 4th episode on the creative process. And this, as Joerg said, we are focusing on auditioning. So I'll launch in with considering that I was reflecting, I feel like the audition process also has 4 stages. And they step through quite a bit of the same general stages as we have been discussing in terms of the first part of falling in love, and the second part, the rehearsal, the preparation or incorporation process with following, which was preceded by the imagination. And then the event. So to reflect back to our process of preparing, we look at our end point. And if we look at our end point, we might ask, like if we were preparing a play, we would ask for what is the vision that we hold for the outcome of this audition. And the very first thing we want to try to grasp is what we expect. What are we planning for? What are we preparing for? And when we ask ourselves what's the most important objective, aim, purpose, goal of our application for this job, then the moment that we do that, it perhaps comes in as, I've got to get this job. So just, for yourself, if right where you are, you do a gesture that says, my objective is to get this job, go ahead and do that right now. And you can even say it. We won't hear you, but you can say it. I've got to get this job. Go ahead and do that gesture now. Yeah. And you'll start to see, as you do this gesture, and you can ask yourself, what is the percentage of success you're likely to have? In America, you may be auditioning against 100 people. Or you may do 100 auditions and maybe you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. If you're really successful, maybe 5%, which means you have 95 chances out of 100 that this gesture, whatever your gesture was of I've got to get this job, will fail. And so another question that we have is how to prepare yourself to engage in this job interview, this job application, is to consider all the possibilities of what could arise from this audition, and understand that if we don't worry about getting this job, but rather seek to create a relationship with whoever we're meeting, we could meet many people in this opportunity. And if we look to create a relationship with them, that's something we can 100% achieve. And we can create relationships from this professional perspective by doing all of the things that you might do to become a friend with someone, to establish a feeling of trust, to establish a feeling of professionalism, to establish a feeling that you take this opportunity seriously, and that you will be a joy to be around. Because in most acting jobs, you're actually acting for a very small part of the time. So when we begin our first phases of our audition, it's really exciting if we imagine and even can create a gesture that expresses this: I want to create or strengthen, if you already have a relationship, create or strengthen relationships. And imagine that being successfully accomplished. And also imagine getting the job and all that goes with it. And these processes begin the moment that you know the opportunity exists. That's when your audition actually begins. That's when the images start coming in. So most of us start imagining the process of auditioning, and we start imagining getting our big prize for being a brilliant actor, whether it's an Oscar, whatever it is in your world. So that's very good, because that helps plan a destination. However, we really want to remember we're here to express ourselves, and you can do this little gesture. I want to express, just try that little movement. I want to express. I'm not trying to impress. There. So just for a moment, try to impress me through the screen, right? You feel it's kind of a push. I want to impress you there. And when this comes at you, how does it feel in your body? And now go like that and say, I express myself there, and feel the difference. See how it looks. How does it feel if I do this, if you do this to each other? How does this feel? I hope you can feel how centered you stay, at how more off balance this is, how forceful this is, desperate, and our ability to gift our talents and our creativity from this expression will most likely be received more easily than when we try to impress. So we're talking right now about falling in love, this first phase of the creative process of falling in love with the art of auditioning, that this is an art all by itself. And so what we're speaking today is, in general, learning to fall in love with your image of what this opportunity means. Because in many artists hear the word audition or proba or whatever your word is, and their gesture is something like that. It's like, oh, I don't want to be judged. And if we walk into the room with an inner psychological gesture going, don't hurt me, please, please love me. Chances are we will be off center and our creative inspiration will be blocked by our fears. So if we remember that we're here to create a relationship, because careers are founded on relationships. People want to work with people they like. And if we just be our natural, open, easy four brothers of art, flowing with ease, breathing, radiating, receiving, allowing ourselves to stay centered, those relationships will naturally form. Lack of preparation is the single largest complaint that directors and casting directors have across the board. And so what we're doing is preparing not only for this particular audition, but also for the whole art of auditioning. You might even change your word and just say it's a business meeting, and I'm here to exchange business. I'm giving you a sample of my product, and you are getting a taste of my product. And so it's not a judgment in that regard on my talent, just giving you a sample of my product.
The self-trusting in the art I have already, and that I take every piece for the auditioning as a piece of art, and not as now is something I have to get something, I have to make it the very best. I have to develop a piece of art. And when you have hundreds of auditionings, then you have worked as a creative artist 100 times. That's fantastic. And to believe that and to trust oneself, this is, I think, so important. I do it for the art and not in this way for the auditioning. I do it for the art, and then I can show it, I can offer it, how me is able to give this, what they gave to me, to relate to it in an artistic way. And out of that, I think it's wonderful. Then the next, or the other step, the other side, the outside now is a relationship. I go to them and they are my partners because they are my audience. Wonderful. Even in these times now, how much audience do we have? Yeah. So they are my audience, and let's try. Yeah. And this is, I think that's good that we have that very clear and trust ourselves in this way and learn to trust it and to overcome the fear through the artistic work. And not through psychology. I need to go to a psychotherapy because I have always fear of an audition. No. One can overcome it through the artistic work. Yeah, sorry that I interrupt you, but I thought that was so important, this basic starting point, to fall in love with a general full audition process in general.
I appreciate it a lot, Joerg, and it also reminds me to say, you inspired me to say, to always remember that the people we are auditioning for desperately need us. They really, really need us, and they want us to be wonderful. They are our biggest fans. Our audience is, they're our biggest cheerleaders. If you are not a good actor, then their project will not be able to be successful. If they can't find good actors, they are done. Their business is done, and they are investing a lot of money, time, and energy in the project. So they are your biggest fans. When you come in and you meet them, know that they really want you to be wonderful, and everything that they can do to help you express yourself in confident and creative and your creative individual ways is going to be very exciting for them. So they're They're waiting for you to reveal how you envision that character. When we look at the text, I love to start from the end. First off, reading every single piece of information that you have, studying and allowing the images to unfold of every piece of information. If it's a movie script, what page is it on? Where does it take place? What has happened just before it that has nothing to do, seems like it has nothing to do. Every single word, to see what information is on it, especially in a movie script where every word has been scrutinized. It has been studied and carefully crafted to be as condensed or concise as possible. And of course, in a full play script, if it's already produced and published, then you really want to study everything you can about the whole context of the show. And if it's something already on TV, for example, and you can watch it, you want to see that for style. And so once you've done that hello material, hello script, study, allowing images to come in, because we have this shortened amount of time to work on, I recommend 3 specific Chekhov tools. Using the law of triplicity, I call it the triple A. And the first is atmosphere. So every scene will begin and end with a different atmosphere. The atmosphere will be different at the end than it will be at the beginning. And that means you will have at least 3 atmospheres in that: a beginning atmosphere, a transitioning atmosphere, and an ending atmosphere. And so as we start asking ourselves, what are the atmospheres? Well, let's look at the last one. And that the information about what the last atmosphere is of the scene might be in stage directions. It might be in the description of a movement. It might not be the last line. So it's the last visual moment, whether it's a stage play or on camera. There's an activity, an event, something happens that makes it change before we move to the next scene. So identify that, baptize it, meaning give it a name, and then go to your opening atmosphere, and see if you can, again, using the laws of composition, find polarity to that ending atmosphere. And find a polarity for that, and then what is the transition? How does it shift? Where does it shift? And physicalize just that. Become molecules of the air, move, create business, even if your character doesn't have any business activity before you do any lines. Just allow yourself to move fully the way it would be blocked on stage or the way it would be filmed on camera. If it's running down the street, go ahead and run down the street, or run across your office or whatever you're working in, so that you actually physicalize the full process, and then come back and take and rehearse the whole section, your whole audition section, with each atmosphere. So take the opening atmosphere all the way through, take your closing atmosphere all the way through, take your transitioning atmosphere all the way through, and then try it with the 3 transitioning and any little bit of physicality or micro-sized, or what we might call veiled expressions of the large physical activity. Depending on whether you're on stage or whether you're on camera, you have a certain amount of movement that you can do. And if it's on camera, you need to make it smaller, but you need to retain the power of it. So in your imagination, you do it fully, and then you radiate and veil the process. when you've worked with atmospheres, well, having done what I just said, I suggest you make at least one whole other set of atmospheres that you're sure is wrong. You may be a whole different style. It could be just wrong. Maybe flip, put your last atmosphere first, or do something completely different and practice that just so you get yourself free from locking in what you think it must be. Do the opposite, do it badly, change it up. The next aspect that is really critical in the audition is what I call the archetype of the character. So what kind of character is it? This is very important. Once you get the whole feel for the atmospheres, then we go to the archetype. They need to cast a type that fits into the storyline. And the archetype is the ideal form or expression of that type. So if it's the young lover, then we need to understand the pure form of young lover. If it's doctor that you're playing, we need Dr. Ness. We need, if it's teacher, we need teacher Ness, the essence of the teacher archetype. There are 4 basic archetypes in most storytelling these days, and they are the villain, the victim, the hero, and the witness or the bystander. So the witness or the bystander, that would be the doctor who's treating the patient who is the victim. And the hero is the police officer who's brought the victim to the bystander. And the hero will keep going on with the whole storyline. The victim may die, so we may not see the victim much longer. The doctor we won't see again, they've just been a bystander. But then the villain, the story is about finding the villain, the hero finding the villain. So you want to understand what, that's just an example of 4 archetypes. Before that, I mentioned an archetype of a doctor or healer, the archetype of the teacher, the young lover. The essence of that is something that you want to find. So when you understand what the archetype is that the script is calling for, then you rehearse with that archetype. Your creative individuality will automatically make it a specific individual. It will happen automatically. You don't need to do anything to avoid cliche. If you're really in touch with the true archetype, you will create a prototype of that. And when you add in the atmosphere, and that atmosphere will also include, in effect, the artistic style. So if it's a period piece, that is part of the atmosphere. Once you have that archetype, you don't need to worry anymore about characterization. The 3rd final part of this preparatory phase, and again, find the opposite, do it wrong. Find maybe 3 different archetypes that you might play with, and your talent will start going, oh, I see how this is. I definitely need, want this archetype. And the 3rd A is your action or activity. And so we have what is the environment, the atmosphere, and who is this person and what happens in the scene. And when we understand what happens in the scene, what is the action or activity, we can find gestures psychological gestures to express that. We can, again, work the physical activity and see what is the gesture, the psychological force behind it. And again, rehearse it with the wrong gestures. If this is a very tender, loving scene, rehearse it with smash, rehearse it with shove. play it incorrectly, and then go back, and together with your preferred atmosphere, your preferred archetype, and your preferred set of actions, rehearse it several times. Okay, so that's this section. What this does, by having created different ways of doing it, when you get into the actual meeting, you may be given direction. And if you're given direction that surprises you and takes you somewhere where you didn't rehearse, if you've only done it one way, you won't be able to flow and shift very easily. But if you did it the way you're pretty sure you love it, and you did it the way it's definitely would never ever be done, whatever direction you are going to be given will fall somewhere in between. And inside, your confidence to express that will be very ready, very at ease. That strong preparation that you did will make this action effortless.
Lisa, that was also a full bag, put everything on the table now with that. So many things. Everybody needs a moment to reflect, I think, I can imagine. And atmosphere, archetype, action, three big themes. Yeah. So, and yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, one can structure it from this side, and I go a little bit different, or would suggest something else to try out. But everything is absolutely related to your creative understanding. It's not this is the right way, this is the wrong way. It is very, very nice when you can work with that suggestion, or you work a little bit in a different way, even when you change it through your inspiration. Of course, one time reading the text and listen to the images, what comes to you. And I try also to suggest just, can I see the character? Can I catch up something? And can I see consciously the character different from me? That's just in the first reading, or I read it a second time, just read through. I don't want to have a result, I just read. And I like very much then to suggest such an experiment to find out what you name with the atmosphere. It's, of course, one of the important points to come to the atmosphere. Just also to find out what is given in this scene. Okay, I read one time more the end. I start also from the end. I think it's so important, because why? When the end is good, then everything was good. It's a very old, very superficial wisdom, but it is, sorry, it's wonderful true. So I have to need to know, what is this scene leading to? And this I have first to understand. Read the end, and to understand that, I go to the beginning. And sometimes you can try it out. Take the last sentence, you will understand what I mean. Maybe this is 3 very little sentences, or it is only one longer. You will play with that and have the first sentence, or the first little 3 sentence, the first sentence, and then read them as if they are the full piece. First sentence, last sentence. What happens there? What is it? What is a contrast? How does it feel like? And so that it could be a help also to find the atmosphere from the end. What is in the end the atmosphere? With these words, what does it mean? Person is speaking in the beginning that, and in the end that. What can I see in it? It is just to activate your mind, your feeling. And then one can look, and it always depends to how much text it is and what is it. Is it dialogue scene? Is it a monologue scene? You have to relate that in a very creative way to it. But out of my reading, I had a feeling, and everybody has it then, there is, between middle and end, there is seems for me an important moment. And I tried to take that. And maybe it is also only described a stage direction or something, a feeling of the character is described, or that the character is just turning the head and is looking away, or what. Whatever you take, something from the middle. And then you have 3 bits. It's the same with Lisa's atmosphere. And then you read the beginning. From the first readings, you try to remember what was impressing you in the middle, between beginning and end. And to take this part. And this part can be just an action or a text, a word, and you can work with that. And then you have the beginning, the middle, let's say middle. It is not always in the middle. And the end. And then you have 3 little bits and you put them together as if it is one. It depends, of course, to the length of the text. When it is very short, then you don't need to split it in this with the gaps between. My suggestion is, when I find the end and the beginning and the middle, the atmosphere for it, and when I find for that area how the character is moving, then it's easily to improvise all the other bits between that. For an audition, for a full play, of course not. But for an audition, what is more or less a short text, a short scene, what has not 3 or 5 different climaxes, it will be very, very helpful. So that's a little bit different from it. And for the next, instead of this archetype, I suggest just take the image of the character you already found and think a little bit. Where do you see that person, this character? How do you see her? How do you see him? And then work with it behind yourself, in your backspace, as if it is, one actress told me, it is as if this person is touching my shoulder. I have the image here, the person touching my shoulder, and I let influence me by it to find out, okay, when I read the text now and when I try to speak the text now with this influence, it gives me some deeper understanding of the context, of the words, of the meaning of the soul in it. It's to try out. So I need a bit the imagination of this character. Of course, the imagination is not only how it, a picture of the outside of that character, how she looks like or so, or the dresses. No, it's a little bit more. One will sense the psychological things, but even through beginning, end, and with the atmospheres, and then with this image. And the actions, I agree, one has to go through all the actions. What I can find, what can I imagine? And actions, it's just a question when you read that, okay, what is an outer action? How can I imagine it? Outer actions. If there are given some, okay. I have to try it out for the character, not as. I do it for the character. I try them out. And there are some inner gesture, inner activities I realize. This I have to do, I have also to act them out just for fun, make them as a big movement. Overdoing it. Bah. Even the atmosphere, I like that very much. I would also say, do the atmosphere with a big movement and express them also with your voice. Simply the atmosphere is the three different ones. You will never show it in this way, but you get a feeling, okay, this is around me, and this is around me. And out of that, you can create step by step another understanding of this piece you got to find a kind of a character, what is not, yeah, that's the question. This is our Chekhov technique. The character, what is not you? Question mark. Can I find things? Can I do the actions for the character? Be I aware, and that's of course the actor's training, be I aware about my traditional personal habits, and can I transform them in habits for the character? But maybe that's also one of the next steps when one has, after the research for beginning and middle, the structure, general structure with the atmosphere, and something like the character in this way or in this way, and having the actions. And then for me, another step, number 4 comes, this is images to the text from the character's point of view. But maybe we come then to that in the next step.
Oh, I'd like you to share that. Talk about it now.
Sorry?
Go ahead and continue with that.
Yeah. When one is reading such a text and one try to fill the words with a meaning, this is what we have to do. But we have to try to fill the words with the meaning of the character, what the character means with that. And sometimes when we get a script, we don't know what was before, what will be after. Maybe they tell, maybe they don't tell, or you get just it on your mobile phone, this text, and then you have to do it. You don't know anything, but you have to find something, you have to create it. And not worry about if you are right or wrong, because you can't know if it is not said to you. And so you can only follow your creative instinct, your creative individuality. And even when you have beginning, end, and the dramatic, the changing point, the changing moment, try to imagine what is it, what is a character means with these words. When the character is describing an outer situation, try to imagine the full situation, more as the words are saying. And imagine where has the character been that the character can describe this with these short words. How does it look like? The character knows. You don't know yet, but you have to create it. The same for the beginning. Same for the middle. If it is an outer situation the character is speaking about, if it is an inner something, a feeling, an emotion, try to imagine, try to find images, how it can be seen, how it can be observed from the character's point of view, not from your personal way. It's very simple, and this example is not Very good to know, I know, but when the character is speaking about her boyfriend, of course, you don't see your boyfriend. But you have to have an image about the boyfriend because she knows how her boyfriend looks like. So create an image. And what is it, what she loves in him? Very roughly, instantly, trust it. You can develop it, but you have to have something. And to leave it blank, what does it lead to? Have you experienced sometimes? You run through the text. You fasten the text when you speak them. But when you have the image and you won't call the image of her boyfriend she is speaking about, because then her thoughts are in this area of her memory. Her memory you are creating through the image you are creating, and you don't use your personal images. And this is for all the different layers the text can speak about: outer events, visible, hearable situations, inner events, or just relationships. And when it are relationships, you have to see between what. You have to see it. And how do you see it? How does it work? It's your fantasy. And this gives then for the words a deeper meaning. And here again, depending to the time, of course, ideal is to do it step by step through the full text, but don't, hard to say in English, different way around. Avoid to be logically. Don't make constructions. No, you are a creative artist. You will get inspired because even the author had some in his or her mind. And there is something in the world of imagination, as long as we believe, like Chekhov, that it is a real world. There is something. How can I reach it? Even when I individualize it. But there is something, and I trust it what I get. And when I can do it for the full text, wonderful. If not, beginning, middle, end, or end, middle, beginning, and all the other things, you will see something happens. When you speak then the text, even, some images arrive in your next rehearsal step. And then you can play with it, work out. So that's in very short time, finding the images for the text from the point of view of the character, and not from your personal point of view.
Beautiful. And if you have more time for preparation, this could also lead you to connecting with where the character is achieving their objectives. And of course, in the short term, short section, you want to be able to have a clear understanding of the character's aim. If it's a bystander, then they're, super objective and things like that of the doctor who's helping the victim. It's, it's not really relevant to the way that you perform 3 lines. Yes, I think he'll survive. Nurse, check his pulse stat, whatever the lines are. It's more important that you capture the atmosphere, the essence of being a doctor, and do the activity and actions that are happening. But no matter how small the part is, having some aim for that character will lead to every event carrying a success or failure opportunity, what we call the win or the loss process. So the doctor's objective is to save the patient, and the doctor the whole time is checking in on the patient to see is the patient getting better or is the patient getting worse? And if you as an artist are able to study the character and are filled with these images of what is happening here, you will also sense whether or not the character is getting closer to their fulfillment or getting further away. And what specific points turn that? As Joerg mentioned, there's always one specific turning point somewhere in that middle that may not be the middle, maybe very close to the end, that really turns the scene. If there's no turning point in the scene is cut. So there is one, and it will turn somewhere around the different characters and what they want and whether they're getting it or losing it. So everyone in the scene is being a support to your character or they're being an obstacle to your character. So just as an example, if you ever get a chance to watch Michael Chekhov in Spellbound, in the very first scene where he comes into his home and there are detectives and police officers and his protege, Ingrid Bergman, and with Gregory Peck, who he doesn't know. And you can see very clearly how Mr. Chekhov relates very differently to each person, depending on whether or not he thinks that they're a friend or an enemy. And so in your script, knowing when you're winning, when you're losing, when you're achieving what you are aiming for and when you're failing at it, will automatically lead to the emotional responses. Once you have those strong images that Joerg was speaking of, then, for example, if that young girl has an image of her boyfriend and it's her boyfriend who's, been shot and is in the emergency room, or she's thinking about him in the emergency room, she will be having responses. She will be failing in her pursuit of love, and she will have a very strong emotional life with that if the artist has created all those images for the characters. So following what we call the win and loss process, or the victory and defeat process, will help keep the dynamic changing.
Yes, very good. Yeah. I think nothing to add for that theme, and everybody knows at least about the objective, and there are also different ways how to come to it. And with our friend Michael Chekhov, maybe we try to find the objective by psychological gesture. And then we have also a physicalization of it in this way. We're doing it with our full body and not only thinking it in this way. But the other point with this is also to imagine the objective of this person as fulfilled. And this is a leading inner image for that character. And then it is very helpful to go into a scene with the movements in the scene or through a monologue. Why is this person, what is it the person is aiming for to express himself? Imagine it as fulfilled. And then one has always a contradictionary. The fulfillment in the scene, at least, never will happen. That's an interesting scene. Okay, that's very, very good. Yeah. Finding the objective, very good. Yeah.
And then finding in addition to finding the objective fulfilled, you can find the objective completely destroyed and let that image, what we call away from motivation, what the character's trying to avoid, and imprinting what the character wants. And Mr. Chekhov, of course, says we live with images of our objective fulfilled, same as we began the preparation process of falling in love with the art of auditioning and seeing it successful in creating relationships. Same thing here, the character lives with those images. And once we try many different ways, there's generally 3 ways that sort of start coming into our intellect to say, which am I going to do? What are my final choices? And one way, this little creature starts coming in and going, this is the way they want it. This is the way they're going to want it. And another is going to go, this is the right way. And another's going to go, I'm really happy with this way. This is the way I love. And so going back to love, go always back to love. These are fear-based choices. Do it this way. I think they want it that way. Do the way you love. You'll do it better. Choose that one. And one suggestion also is imagining when in your rehearsal, you want to imagine your partner as not acting well with you, and allowing yourself to create an imaginary partner who acts wonderfully with you, just the way you want, so that you get a chance to be prepared for not having a partner who can act well with you or a partner who acts really well. You are able to be in the moment, spontaneous and responsive. And this is a requirement for stage and for on camera. For example, on stage, you may have a stage manager sitting off the stage reading with you, and you're supposed to look at a space on the stage as if you're talking to a partner. And you, again, want to be able to imagine that you're hearing, receiving, and seeing the best partner possible. And when you're in a film situation, you may be reading with a casting person who is busy observing you and studying you and rooting for you. And they're not doing their best acting, but they're doing the same acting for you as for everyone else. So when they give you a blank slate and they give you a blank reading, a very middle of the road, unexciting reading, it allows you to bring in all your own creativity and imagine you're receiving the ideal responses. So that leads me to this rehearsing your process. Once you've made your decision, you've got to practice it over and over again. And before you go to sleep, and it's always best to prepare at least 24 hours in advance, before you go to sleep at night, lie in bed and see the entire process. And the entire process, from traveling from where you are to where you need to be easily and safely, getting there early, greeting everyone in the outer office, radiating light, staying centered, entering inside the office itself, bringing your sunlight and centered self into their space, transform the space from your greeting, hello, I'm Lisa Dalton, nice to meet you, and shifting into the atmospheres that you've chosen, taking it through, flowing back and forth with what you're being given or what you imagine you're being given, and sustaining your final moment of the scene. Sustain it in silence in the atmosphere before you snap back to your radiant, expressive, personal self. These, and then when you make your exit, allow yourself to gracefully move through the space as you go out. I won't go into the details of your entrances and exits today. We'll save that for the live workshops. However, just remember, anytime you're live, your meeting and is that person right for this project evaluation process is happening from the moment they see you till the moment they no longer see you. So not just during your acting portion. You have the first third that leads up to when you start acting. You have the giving a sample of your talent there. And then you have everything from when you end till they no longer see you. And these opening and closing moments, again, as Joerg said, when the ending moment is great, the whole thing was great. So you want to hold this graceful ease and flow all the way through until you're way, way far away. That flowing process. And so when you are the night before in your bed, you want to rehearse the process from traveling, coming into the waiting room, transferring into the audition space, shifting from the greeting into the offering, your closing exit, traveling away, and booking the job, and having strengthened and created your relationships. So envision all of it and allow your emotional life to travel in your body as you do it. And when you wake up again in the morning, one more time, visualize the whole process so that it's really within you.
That sounds as if it is just the end of it. But I think we should take a few minutes for that rehearsal process at home itself, because you are alone with yourself and you have to direct yourself. And how do you feel? Isn't it sometimes not so easy not to get stuck in it and then get tired about that rehearsal thing, and that you can stay fresh? So we have said so many points now, and I like to say, try it out, but don't overdo it. Just try it out and do it with a feeling of ease. Try this out and try this out. And I like very much this with do it wrong, what you said, or we had said in the workshop, make it as bad acting, really bad acting one time, so that you free all your concepts. It has to be in this way, and then you do it and you rehearse for yourself and say, oh no, that was not the right thing. So that one is not creating stress in the home rehearsal. It should be also the rehearsal process with oneself alone should be also a creative process. It should be also a piece of art. And this suggestion is, when you try out something, look back. Fly back, don't criticize, and don't just repeat the mistake, or that was a mistake, and then repeat this bit and repeat this bit again and then again, that it becomes better and better. No, do it, what you have done out of the steps, look back and give you a task for your next individual rehearsal. Give you a task. Don't rehearse without a clear task for yourself, that you know what you are focusing in this process. Only one bit is possible. Only atmosphere, or only images, or only psychological gesture, or only actions. And what would I like to develop with my actions? In this moment, yeah, now I remember. I could make it in this way. Good, now I know what I want to try out. And then I do it again. And we come also to that funny law, without to make, how to say it in English, to make a dogma from it. It is one rehearsal, do everything only 3 times. Don't over-rehearse yourself. Just after 3 times trying out the atmospheres, maybe then you do it wrong one time, really consciously, and then say, okay, it's done. I can come back if I have more time, but I have tried out something. And my creative ego will pull out of my field of my creative ego, will pull the right thing. I have given the chance that it can come down to me, to the earth. And then you go to the next bit. Then you go to images of text or to the archetype or to the image of the character or whatever you would like to work with. And even when you only can work out two things, be happy. As long as you have done it creative and with joy and with this enthusiasm and not over rehearsing, it will work for you. Always, it will work. And then one can, what is wonderful, it's another part than this flying over the full process in future, what you said for the night. And this is a very good preparation. So on the other hand, we have we only could give fragments of many interesting points in this process. And in our time, what is the most? The people can't go to the audition. They have to take your mobile and have it put in front of them and have to know where their audition. So I think maybe we should do another session just about that. Yeah. Mobile phone auditioning.
I think that would be great. Yeah.
It is just what is in our time now. The people I have heard also from Russia, they get so many opportunities to make such mobile phone or even with a laptop recording auditions, and one should speak about that. I think that's an important point, and maybe in the next meetings.
Okay, sounds great. I'm wondering if Ophir has a question for us.
You think I don't? So but I know the time is limited, but just one thing, how far, it's a question that actors ask themselves, how far can I go in audition? How far can I go with the character in an audition? How can I know that, how do I know that I'm not doing myself harm when I go maybe overboard? So how can we manage it?
For me, I would say that's a matter of style, and it requires rehearsal. I mean, research. It's a matter of style. It requires research. And when we start right off with that atmosphere, as I mentioned, it contains style. If in today's world of online, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to research shows that exist and or directors and past projects that they've directed. And these will often reveal how that particular person or style operates. We used to say that if you were doing the TV show that Gillian Anderson did with about the the UFOs. I'm forgetting the name of it. But
the X-Files.
X-Files. So the casting directors would say, if you're auditioning for X-Files, just don't act. Just don't act. But if you're doing something like NYPD Blue, now you've got to really dig into the gritty characters. And those are styles. And so if there's anything you can do to research the style, if it's a new production, the what you want to do is try to read the whole script, if at all possible. And anytime you can read the whole script, that's great. And if you can't get the whole script, read every other set of audition sides. Sometimes you see all the audition sides for all different characters. Read them all and ask. And this is the most important thing. Ask someone, what is the style? And is it strong acting? Is it very, very subtle? Is it, comedy or drama? Just sometimes you can't tell whether it's comedy or drama, and just not knowing that it's comedy because it's a dramatic moment in a comedy will completely change the intensity level. And that's, Ophir, how I hear your question is, if you make too strong, if it's too intense, too expressive, too large, then this is another reason why you want to have rehearsed it in very different ways. Because when you ask, if you ask what is the style, and it's 10 seconds before you're supposed to do it, you need to be ready to take that information that you've been given and integrate it instantly. So don't ask a question unless you're going to be able to integrate the answers. And so when you think of the question, you can come up with different answers to it and rehearse responding to those different answers. And there was one more thing I wanted to say, and it's blanked. So, Joerg, is there anything you want to jump in about?
If you get an idea about a style, or you have the question which style it is, then try out 3 styles and do that, and then you are prepared, and then you can ask, and then you can do it in this way as Lisa is suggesting. And if you don't know, and if you have no idea and you have no chance to ask, then because you are sitting at home with your mobile phone, then you have to trust your artistic process, my understanding. Take as much information you can take, but then trust your artistic process and believe it, and give it truthfully. With your sense of artistic truth, you have to do it. And if it failed, okay, then it's at least also not the end of the life. And when you have trusted, then you are authentic. But if you are not trusting that what you give, then if you, I don't know, and out of that it is not very clear, this is not good. Make a decision and give it if you not know anything else, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that is really, really important is, if you are full-bodied acting and really acting all the way down to through your groin into the arches of your feet and your toes, if it's fully distributed, it can be larger and still truthful. If you get into a style or it up to an energy level where the part of the energy has left your lower body, you will overact, and that will happen either on stage or on camera. On camera, you really need to be anchored, traveling artistically all the way through your groin, down your legs, into your feet. So no matter how big you get, if it's full, the truthfulness will be there, and anyone watching it will know they can soften that, bring it down. And if you veil, if you soften the physical outward expression, it's important to make sure that you do not pull the energy or abandon the energy in the lower body and just bring it up into this. Again, you'll be overacting. So if anything, it would be better for you to drop the energy up here and keep it very alive down there when the camera is here. And this will give you a full streaming power. And so, there's that thought.
Yeah, that leads us again to the other theme for this camera auditioning. Yeah, in this way. But this suggestion you gave, it is, I think, helpful anyway. Whatever you do at home as a preparation involves the full body. Don't think one has only to do it with the arms and hands or with the head, even when one knows they will only look in this area or whatever. Find a full body way to express what you find out. The full body has to be involved because it's always sensible or tangible. One sees that if it is not the case or if it is there, if your feet are involved when you move your hand and your head.
Yes. The final phase of this auditioning process is the sustaining process. After you have completed the actual physical event, there is a lingering, there's the question of hoping, a question of whether or not you want to fly back over and check in to see how everything went. And above all, your four brothers of art, ease, form, beauty, and wholeness. In your flyback, you can ask, where were they? Were they there? And if you retained your four brothers through the process, then you know that you certainly created or strengthened a relationship. And that's your aim. This thing called hope will suck energy. It will also generate energy. Hope sucks energy. It drains you when you're hoping over something in the past. And it inspires you and generates energy when you're relating it to the present and future. So at a certain point, hoping that you got the part after you've done your offering and sharing needs to conclude. And so you need to target a date when you will say, okay, I'm done hoping, letting that go, and I'm celebrating that I maintained my feeling of ease and I created or strengthened relationships. And, I'm going to stop on Thursday because, maybe I took 2 days to prepare, so I get 2 days to hope. Find a time to release that energy of hope over something in the past so that that energy can be with you in the present and help you prepare for your future.
So here we are for today.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, very much for joining us. And we will be back with the online acting auditioning online, same time next week, same place. So excited that you joined us. I'll go ahead and unmute everyone. Say goodbye, Joerg.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining. And let us know how you enjoyed that or what your questions are.